There you go, Starsha.
Thank you for the introduction, Teresa. It's really helpful to get that background from you about the original Equitable Development Plan. So my name is Starsha Valentine, and I know Bo. I just sent you a message, Bo. It's good to see you on here. So I have worked with District Bridges for a couple of years in different capacities. You probably remember I was temporarily working with Lower Georgia Avenue when we brought on Teresa. So I may have been on a couple of ANC calls during that time frame. But now I've been brought on to help with this Equitable Development Plan, and I'm going to share my screen to give a very, very brief presentation on what we're doing and ways in which we would like for you all to be involved and ways that we'll be rolling this out. So I'll go through this. So the Lower Georgia Avenue Equitable Development Plan is a community-driven initiative where we aim to create a set of sort of policies and recommended programs and recommendations along the corridor to really build a thriving commercial corridor. But it's not just about the commercial property, it's also about residential, it's about all of the different various types of properties and businesses and institutions that are located along Georgia Avenue. But we also want to hear from and engage with community members who live in the adjacent neighborhoods of Pleasant Plains, Parkview, and LaJoy Park. So we are trying to really, the phase one of this project is what we are doing right now. Phase one is community engagement. So what we're trying to do is gather as much feedback and information from people about their experience living in the neighborhood, their experience of the corridor, thoughts they have about what equitable development could look like. So we're really taking this first phase to just collect that information. And I will talk a little bit about how we're doing that. But it is managed by two organizations and funded by LISC. So District Bridges, which you all are familiar with, and Justice and Sustainability Associates, who managed the first time around, the first portion of this project. So we're just, sort of working with them again and, bringing back some of the ways in which they were engaging with folks in the past. So here's a couple goals for phase one. Phase one is really, again, to collect information from people, lived experience, stories, everything that they have experienced as neighbors and residents and business owners and property owners along the corridor. So we really want to support the overall project by creating a shared vision for the thriving commercial corridor. What could that look like? That reflects the history and acknowledges the history of Georgia Avenue, but then also captures the culture and identity and some of the things that we want to really put out to potential developers or potential folks for building things along the corridor. So building public awareness about what an equitable development plan could look like, and that it's really community-led and community-driven, to convene stakeholders to become a part of a strategic leadership council. So as we're rolling into phase two will be dictated by the information that we gather along with phase one. The community is going to drive the process, but we do need to have a smaller council that we can always go to for updates. So during this time, we'll be asking people, are you interested in serving on the council and gathering that? So convening key stakeholders to serve on this greater council for the final plan. And then again, collecting and aggregating all of this data and feedback and information from really diverse stakeholders along the corridor. And then the endpoint or the final deliverable for phase one will be a plan for phase two. And phase two is going to be the actual plan development and what it looks like. So there are three ways in which we're going to be engaging with people. The first one is stakeholder interviews and surveys. So we will have a survey that will be available to all of the public that we will be promoting through our website, through digital, through social media, through, as well as if going to libraries. So having the survey available for people who don't have digital access or unfamiliar with it. So having the survey available for the general community, but also there are key stakeholders that we want to interview either one-on-one or in a group setting. So the purpose of these will be to reintroduce the project, talk more specifically about the project, but learn about the history of the corridor from the perspective of people who live and work and play in the neighborhood, to learn about any activities that are happening on the corridor that people know about, rumors, things like that, just capturing that data, identify some hopes and fears around development and economic development along the corridor, and then build support for participation in this project and collect referrals from other stakeholders of people that they think we should talk to. So if there's someone that you say, oh, you know, Mary has lived on the corridor for 50 years. You should definitely talk to her and capture her story. So we want to hear from people to be able to recommend other folks that we should talk to. And then also the final one is to identify who this greater strategic leadership council will be, who will lead the subsequent phases. So here's a description of the strategic leadership council, what the people are, what we're looking for, very diverse, intergenerational, multi-generational perspectives, people who have lived on the corridor a various amount of times, people who have owned property and all of that. So coming from lots of different experiences is where we're looking for, what we're looking for the council. And then we will culminate phase one with a community engagement event, an in-person event. So we're trying to figure out with COVID, how we do that. Do we want to do that? But some kind of an in-person event where we can also share some of the information that we gathered in the interviews and surveys, but also to do some exercises and practice around capturing that data and then what the next steps are. And JSA will facilitate that event. We're still trying, again, with COVID, we're figuring out how we do that, when we do that, what's a safe space and safe time to do that, safer, let's say. So this is the time frame that we're talking about. January and February, we really wanted to start with group interviews. We didn't start in January because we really wanted to make sure that we told the ANCs first before we even really reached out to anyone. It was really important for us to notify you all and for you all to answer any questions or things that we're not thinking about. So because we didn't make the January meeting, we've pushed that back to February meeting, and therefore we haven't done any interviews or reached out at all. So this will really sort of be a February to March type of time frame. And then from February to March, we'll start to identify who's going to be on that strategic leadership council and starting to engage with them and figure out where they will land. And they will also help us plan that culminating event. The community engagement event will be April, May time. Hopefully it's warm enough, maybe it can be outside. So having the council think about and play a part in creating this event itself and also wherever that's going to be held. And then the April, May time is where we'll be developing the report on the first phase. So this will be the first phase of collecting this information from community members, publishing the survey data. So the first phase of the report will come out sort of in the May timeframe. And then May and June, we'll start to think about, after we've gathered all this information, we gathered the data, we put out the report, what are the next steps that are dictated by the community? And that is in which May through June, we'll do that planning, probably May through July or so, and then ongoing, dependent upon what we've received from the community feedback. So these are the people who are working on this. So it's myself, Teresa, Micah Campbell-Smith. I think she's probably in the audience, but she's also a project coordinator working with me. As you all know, Brianne, and then Don Edwards from JSA is the CEO, and there'll probably end up being another person from JSA participating in this. So I think that is all that I have in terms of a presentation. And I definitely want to get to some of these questions if we have a couple minutes.
We'll start with commissioners for questions, and I'll start. The corridor, can you define what you consider the corridor? What are the boundaries?
The Lower Georgia Avenue corridor, I believe, is from Florida Avenue to Upshur. Is that correct, Teresa?
No, the
Oh,
Main Street boundary for the
oh, that's
Lower
Main Street
Georgia
boundary.
Avenue
Okay.
Main Street is from Barry Place in the south, right there at the McDonald's, up to Upshur Street in the north. And it's 1.5 miles, and that is the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Street
And
boundary.
it does not include anything, say, commercial on Sherman, even though many of us
Does not.
consider that the corridor.
It's corridor adjacent, and certainly.
But not part of this exercise.
Correct. This is particularly Georgia Avenue.
Teresa, I'm pushing on this because I want to understand, because many times we think things are included and they're not. So I just want to find out what we think what the defined boundaries are. It may not be the boundaries in practice, but the defined boundaries. We know we always adjust things for what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this sounds an awful lot like the Georgia Avenue Development Task Force of years past that was led by Sylvia Robinson and Darren Jones, and the activities of the Pleasant Plains Civic Association. How will those activities and that past work, along with the ANCs of the area, be built into this program?
So in terms of the organizations that have been doing the work already, we will be interviewing them individually. So I will check and see if Sylvia and Darren are located on our initial list for stakeholders. If they are not, I will add them. But I definitely
well, Sylvia's deceased.
Okay. So I think we will, Teresa will help me to figure out who needs to be added to the spreadsheet in that sense of sort of who we need to capture. But we really would like you all to be a part of and lead who we need to be talking to if we're not capturing them. So you all will dictate to us, definitely we capture this person, and that's where we see the ANC involvement as a whole, but also we want to interview all of you all. So as ANC, you are an elected official, and we really want your input and your opinion on this plan, on your experience, how you feel about the corridor, all of that information. So we will also be reaching out to you all to interview you all one-on-one.
I think this will be important, particularly as we are going through redistricting now and looking at possibly a Georgia Avenue ANC.
ANC, yes. But to your question, that would be included as historical data for sure. And many of those folks are still around to be interviewed. So of course that would be absorbed into those folks you talked about that were with Sylvia and ECAC and Howard University. And yes, absolutely.
I mean, there was a lot of good work done there. We didn't all agree all the time. But it's obvious now that some of that history is not known here. And it's important that you make sure that it's brought into this project.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a good thing. It's a good thing that's going to happen out of this. We can do this. We can craft something good here. I believe that. So thank you.
Commissioner Ewart.
Thank you, all the folks from District Regis for presenting. I really appreciate it. One comment, one question. One comment, I put this in the chat, but if folks are interested in other works that Justice and Sustainability Associates have done, they were a big part of the City of Richmond, Virginia master plan efforts that was just, I think, approved last year in 2021. They did a lot of the community engagement on that. I got my master's degree in city planning in Richmond, and before I left to come back to DC, I was a part of some of the community engagement there. They do a lot of really interesting work, and you can see that kind of like finished product of their plan in the link I put in the chat. The question I have is just maybe not exactly a question, but just kind of like a motivation to, like, when thinking about like these development plans and what they're going to do, just like consider all the stakeholders who are in this area, including our unhoused neighbors, because these kinds of things really impact them as well. it's hard to kind of build that relationship on such a short time. So I encourage y'all to either like get on the groundwork now and start talking to folks who are unhoused and who frequent the area, and just try and get a sense of like how they think that that future development will impact them and what needs they have as well. It's just a stakeholder group that is often not considered when these large plans go into publication and stuff like that. So I just think it's an important thing to do. But thank you all for the work you're doing, and I appreciate you guys reaching out to us.
Thank you very much for that comment. And that is very important, that the community, if you're talking about a community-led development plan, then obviously community means unhoused neighbors. So thank you, that's very important. And I've done a lot of work with the unhoused population in the past. And so absolutely. Everyone from the ground up has to be included. The voices, the people who experience the most, obstacles and pain have to be at the center of a community-driven plan, like, because we're trying to improve it, right? There's a lot of things we're trying to do. A moment like this is important because everything can be considered. There is something great about Georgia Avenue. We all know that. There are probably things that I would hate to think that anybody on this meeting would think, there's something I absolutely hate about Georgia Avenue. I don't think there is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this meeting, really. And there's something special about it. It's almost, we can make something good happen here or not.
Right. Let's go to our next question. Commissioner Baina.
Mine is really quick. Just to clarify on kind of that timeline you had up earlier, when is the plan or the final report or plan supposed to be completed and delivered? And then how far into the future is it planning for? Is it for planning for the next 5 years, 10 years? What kind of is the time horizon?
What we thought was that we really wanted from our interviews to ask people that question. What do you want to see? Do you want to see a 3-year equitable development plan? Do you want to see 5 years? But really what the endpoint and the final deliverable will look like, I think, is a bill of rights of what people in the community want along the corridor. So recommendations for what we want to see on the corridor, even perhaps recommendations on ways that developers will come in, how they need to engage with the community, what they need to invest in the community in order to build. So these are sort of recommendations, I think, is what's going to be the final document. But again, what's in the document and what it looks like will be dictated by you all. So you telling, we're just capturing, my role is just to capture what you want. So hearing from you all, capturing it, putting it onto paper so then everyone can read it. And again, everyone will not agree, we know this, but still everyone's voice is really valid in this space. And I really do appreciate bringing in the mentioning the unhoused. It's very important. And I have written that down, and Teresa is always an advocate for that. So definitely adding that to the list.
Thanks. That was really helpful clarity. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Farnan.
Thank you, Commissioner Baina. That was actually my question, but I had one other question for you. Are we able to share the presentation publicly? And if so, would you be able to send it over to us? And I'd be happy to share in our newsletter next week.
Yes.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I actually have it, so I will share it across.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Harris. And thanks for giving us a first look. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Luther.
Good evening, everyone. I like the history part of it, right? Because being the commissioner of 1B03 and the president of Garfield Tours, a lot of people don't know the history here. That this building been here since 1882, named after the 20th president of the United States. And not only that, this isn't even the original building. The original building, it was a farm here. Not only was a farm here, it was a hospital here. And the hospital that was here is the first hospital in history with an elevator in it. And then beyond the history up into the 60s, no one knows it, but I have history of the first mayor of DC, Walter E. Washington, pictures, history of him being the Garfield tours in events and in the paper, archives that you can't find, but I do have. This is the history that need to be told, and the history that the people say. Let's start with the first mayor. We understand they say Marion Barron was mayor for life, but let's look at the first mayor and look at that rich history of all of that. You know, and that's what we need to be looking at when you talk about historical stuff. The oldest thing in this neighborhood is the black fence around Garfield Terrace and those wooden bricks. That history need to be told. It need to be showed. It need to be understood. So I'm in support of it. Whatever they do and however they do it, I'm in support of the history of it. And Starsha, you know, haven't seen you in a while, nice seeing you. You know my information, get in touch with me. And I like to continue on with this. I like it. Thank you.
So Commissioner Luther is going to be a good resource for you, as well as Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, I can't wait to talk to you individually, one-on-one, because, you know, one of the things we've talked about, Micah's there now, is capturing that history, like doing exercises where we can capture that story, not just the things that are in history books or that we can look up easily, but like the lived history. So, you know, even, you know, like you said, photos and the story of the first mayor, and these are things that we need to capture because they really do dictate what has happened, and acknowledging what has happened and the practices that have been used so far, and then what we want to see in the future, or what you all want to see in the future, and just capturing all of that.
And in that, Starsha, is also a whole corridor in our basement of Garfield Terrace that we linked up with some Howard students, you know, and we'd like to do a whole abstract down there of our history, right? And I got permission to do that.
Okay.
A whole abstract of the city so people could come in and see what really is going on just in that ward right there and beyond the city. Thank you.
Let's now go to our last question, Mr. Patrick Nelson.
I don't have a.
Patrick, sorry, you went on mute for a second. Did you say you didn't have a question?
Yeah, I said I don't have a question per se, and I debated whether I even wanted to comment on this because this is a little bit too close to me. I'm glad that James Turner, Chair Turner, mentioned the history and all of the connection to what has happened in the past. I've lived in my house for 30 years. I live one block away from George Avenue. I know quite a bit about the history of it. Hand in hand since 2005 with Sylvia Robinson on the Heritage Trail that we put up along Georgia Avenue. We did the Georgia Avenue Development Conferences 3 times with Howard University. So there's been a whole lot of work that was done, and this whole project that you guys are talking about precipitated from a conversation that was held between certain individuals and the current Ward 1 council member. So there is, to Bo's point, there's a whole lot of history that a lot of people don't understand and don't see. So I'm hopeful that you guys can attend to that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going around this block again because I've wasted half of my life trying to deal with this and Sylvia has passed away. And I'm still on the board of ECAC, and we're going through a whole transition period. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you guys, I'm willing to hook up with you and see whether you can use, but there was a whole series of things that we did where we actually interviewed and taped. Now, I don't know whether we can get the tapes to work because it's all old camera tapes of all of the older people that used to live in the neighborhood, and can probably give you a whole lot of verbalized information. Lynn French, myself, I can't even think that Darren did one. There's a whole bunch of people that were taped and asked for information on history specifically. But there's a wealth of knowledge there that's available if you're willing to sort through it.
Okay, would you be the person that I can talk to directly about where that is and how I could access it?
Yeah, I'm the only person that can get it to you because I'm in control.
Okay.
So yes, definitely. And I would appreciate just as a point, the sooner the better, because we're literally in transition. We're selling the building. I've got to move stuff around. So if it's stuff that you want to take and look at and hold on to for a time, I'm more than willing to give it to you, but the window is closing very quickly. This is going to happen before the 17th of this month. So timing wise, it's perfect that you're coming now, but the sooner I can get you whatever it is you'd like to look at, the better, because it's going to go into storage.
Want to thank you for coming this evening and giving us an update on this project and the timeline. And please do keep us updated.
We absolutely will. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Star Chat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay, I'll now call our monthly meeting to order. It's February 3rd, 2022. It's ANC 1B. We're meeting virtually through Zoom. Let's take a moment to reflect on what a difficult year it's been, or 2 years, or I've kind of lost track of time. And when you think during the pandemic, all the good things that we saw of humankind and human beings being good and kind and respectful and helping each other, we always have those moments where unfortunately, so much hatred comes into the picture. Whether it's hatred of LGBTQ, Asian American, law enforcement. And here again, we have another perfect example of people acting out of hatred at the beginning of Black History Month with the bomb threats that have been issued against our historic universities and colleges. And we have to remember that there is just no room for that in society and life today. And I think we are, and we try to drive in our communities that we need to respect each other. May not get along, but we need to respect each other, help each other, and be good neighbors. That's what's going to strengthen our communities. So let's take a moment, reflect on that this evening, and as we work through our business this evening. A few reminders. Our meetings are open to the public, and they're recorded for future viewing and are also live streamed. Commissioners are expected to abide by our code of conduct. All commissioners are encouraged to comply with our open meetings statute and have their cameras active during the majority of the meeting. Please raise your hand when you have a question, and we'll take them in order in the Zoom grid unless I get confused. You may also enter questions in the Q&A feature, and we'll answer them there or later in community comments. And due to current health concerns, ANC 1B meetings will continue to be virtual until otherwise advised. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll, please.
Commissioner Handerhan.
Present.
Commissioner Orlowski. Commissioner Umar.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Floyd,
Present.
Commissioner Ewart,
Present.
Commissioner Bana,
Present.
Commissioner Turner,
Present.
Commissioner Farnan,
Present.
Commissioner Harris, present. We have a quorum of 8. Sorry, hold on. I cannot count. 9 of 10.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Commissioners, you have an agenda before you. There is one addition to the agenda under ABR, and that is approval of a settlement agreement for Axum. Is there a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda?
I move we approve the, oh, sorry, Commissioner.
Sorry,
Ewart.
really quickly, I'd just like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the amendment that we'll give 5 to 10 minutes to Mignon Bowie, who is the new Ward 1 DDOT liaison during the transportation segment of the meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thank you. Reports and action items, short-term family housing. Commissioner Thomas will be representing the chair on the advisory committee with Commissioner Bana as the SMD. Not that the distinction matters. It's just that we have 2 representatives on the advisory group to help with the very important work at the Terrell. Is there an update on the Terrell?
There should be an advisory. The meeting should happen sometime in the next month or so for this quarter, I'd say. The last update was prior to the holidays when they had their holiday coat drive and Amazon wish list. So there should be another stakeholder advisory meeting not too long from now.
Thank you. Public safety and community engagement, Commissioner Farney.
Thanks. And I see we have Lieutenant Markowitz. I know he's also the watch commander tonight. So thanks for joining us, Lieutenant. I'm sure we have a couple questions, but would love your updates first.
Hey, good evening. We've had a couple of high profile, I guess, violent crimes in the area. And I was sort of prompted that there'd be questions about it. So Georgia Avenue had the homicide of the mother who had the kids in the car. That has been closed with an arrest. And then we had a shooting at 14th and Irving, right outside the Columbia Heights Metro Station. That also has been closed with an arrest. We were actually running an operation right there at the intersection when the shooting took place. So we were able to quickly apprehend the perpetrator and recover the gun. And other than that, we have some other initiatives in place for the district and for Columbia Heights in particular. We have a spike of robberies right now. The city as a whole does, and the 3rd district is no different. So we're instituting some different patrol policies and sort of proactive traffic cars to be a little bit more visible and have sort of a deterrence aspect, and then hopefully catch the people that are perpetrating these armed robberies. That's all I really have for the moment. Any questions?
Commissioner Ewart.
I have a question related to MPD policy when it comes to recommending like DPR action when crimes occur in or near parks. I recently spoke with our Parks and Rec kind of liaison who about like so I live in 1B07, which is right next to the Columbia Heights Recreation Center. One of the entrances to the park adjacent to the Columbia Heights Recreation Center has been closed for some months now. And it's my understanding that the reason for this was per the recommendation of from MPD based on crimes that happened in the park. I think this is more of a long-term, you can get back to me kind of situation, but I'm just kind of curious about what is MPD's policy when for recommending closing of certain entrances for parks, why they're doing so, and just kind of the logic behind it.
So the park in particular, I recall, I think, a conversation about the park that it was to, I could be wrong, but I think it was to sort of centralize access to dissuade some of the problematic actions from entering the park. But again, that's gonna be a long-term question that I have to research. And some of it's case by case. When we see a large uptick in incidents, whether it be robberies or drug complaints or just citizen complaints about something going on in a specific area, sometimes it's the parks will come to us, sometimes it's the citizens, and we come up with ideas that may work to try and streamline it. Sometimes some of the places do the changes on their own, like 14th and Irving. The building manager got tired of shootings and is making long-term permanent landscaping changes around the metro station. So I don't know that we have a hard and fast policy about making recommendations. It's sort of, if people ask, we put our 2 cents in, and it's not necessarily always right, but we kind of try to figure out a way to deal with the problems that people present to us.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, the parks that are closest to my single member district are the one at the Columbia Heights Recreation Center at 15th and Girard, I guess would be the closest intersection. It also intersects University Place and Fuller Street. And then also in Commissioner Baina's single member district, which is across the street from mine, the Girard Street Park. Just kind of curious about what policies exist for those 2 spots.
Yeah, if you could follow up with me as well. I know on one of these meetings you did speak about the 14th and Girard Park and the thought process behind closing all of the entrances except the one, and I still don't understand that. So definitely, if you could follow up, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll have to look in to figure out exactly where the decision came from, but yeah, I'll follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Baina, was that your question as well?
No, my question was, so I've observed, and several of my constituents, neighbors have observed, it seems like in Columbia Heights area, there's a lot of police cars that are just parked, and oftentimes with their lights on. And it just seems like every night there's just cars parked with their lights on, and sometimes there are just police officers sitting in the cars. I don't know if that's because it's been cold. So can you explain, is that like some sort of deterrent strategy? Or, I had thought that there was a rollout of more folks that were going to be walking, in the area. So can you just talk about that? Because it seems like a nightly thing that there's cars almost located and parked and lights on, and people may or may not be sitting in them.
Yeah, so that started kind of with the Fall Crime Initiative. And the focus always was not to have officers just sitting in the cars. That's sort of the ongoing task of trying to get officers to be out and about and engaging people. The cars with the lights on, specifically up at 14th and Irving, is because we've noticed that when we have had the drive-by shootings, they've occurred when MPD has not been visible up there. And usually we found that they're targeted for narcotics related stuff, drug dealing up near the metro station. So the thought process was we have a car that's visible so people can see that, hey, MPD is up here, but again, they're not supposed to be in the car. That is a frustrating thing of trying to get officers to walk around and engage. And I was talking with the commander today about issues related to that. I will reiterate again with people that please do not sit in the car. I mean, even if it's cold, Columbia Heights, there's a ton of businesses and stuff that they could go and interact, and there's so much going on up there. They shouldn't be sitting in the car, but we're working on that.
Thanks.
Commissioner Farna.
Thank you, Chair. I just had one follow-up to the shooting that happened on Georgia.
Yep.
The children, did you understand and here's my video, if they had another caretaker or if they went into the adoption system, or what happened to the children that were in the car?
I do not have an answer for that. They may have had to go to Child and Family Services briefly, but that's sort of a very interim thing. Child and Family Services, in my experience, has been very good about trying to get kids with guardians, because I don't know that they have a whole unlimited resources to house children. So they prefer to find a responsible guardian. They'll vet the person, and then they will. Sometimes they won't even take the kids in. They'll try to find one on scene, and they'll okay it. Okay. I can look into.
Yeah, that would be great. And then I can also just follow up with you in the next few weeks once you've had time to touch base with whoever might be the right person. So then, as the commissioner for the area, but then the full ANC, we can offer support. Either that's driving to and from school, or figuring out a new routine for them. I'm sure it's just been so hard and they're so young. So would love to help out in any way, or just offer our services as well.
Gotcha.
And then do want to say thank you for acting quickly and, finding the perpetrator and then making the public aware of that arrest, because I think that made a big difference in the response from the community. And of course, it's right near Howard University. So we want to make sure that those students are feeling safe. So thank you.
Yeah, and Howard obviously has a lot going on right now with the threats. So we've been working with them as well. We've had a daily communication with their campus police, and we've had officers pretty steadily on campus to sort of complement and help alleviate some of those concerns.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner Harris.
Hi, Lieutenant Markowitz. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to ask, since you said that the suspect was apprehended for one of the shootings on 14th and Irving, I wanted to double check on another one that happened on January 13th at around 9:45 a.m. Were you able to find, or do you have any updates on that?
January, where was the actual shooting?
I believe it was on 14th and Irving.
Oh,
it was in the morning.
I believe it was where there was a female victim.
I'm not sure.
I'll look. I'll get back to you. I don't have an update right now, but I can get back to you.
And kind of speaking to that, and thank you for letting us know that the officers are supposed to be out of their cars. There is a car often stationed on tonight through Sunday right on U Street, and the lights actually filter into my apartment, so have learned to sleep through that, but I haven't seen the officers out engaging kind of with the community. And I saw also firsthand on that incident on January 13th, I believe officers did try to engage with community members, and community members' response were why would we tell you anything? You don't know us.
So the U Street, there's a bunch of factors with that because that's also part of the club zone deployment, and their mission is very different than 14th and Columbia.
Okay.
It's also in a different sector, so I don't really have input necessarily on their deployment other than days like I'm the watch commander and we have to make sort of emergency pushes and moves. But the club zone units who are stationed along U Street, Florida Avenue, and like 9th Street, excuse me, they have a sort of a more specialized mission than, like I said, what's up at 14th and Irving. It's very drastically different.
Yeah. I would say I have heard from community members that they would like to see kind of more engagement or officers at least walking around and talking with people and getting to know people versus staying in their cars. Because they've even communicated that it doesn't seem that the patrol cars really do a whole lot to prevent kind of violence from happening.
Yeah,
especially on some of the kind of side streets as well too.
We have this sort of unfortunate reality where, I mean, it's no secret that MPD's numbers are shrinking and we are having the same workload with fewer and fewer officers. So a lot of times throughout the day, officers, especially the 3rd district, which is incredibly busy, officers are responding to 911 calls most of the day. So I'm not saying that it's impossible to have officers being out, and we have some dedicated beats where officers are supposed to be out and like truly engaged. But like Columbia Heights is, we're, like I said, we have a new program. We're trying a new initiative up there that should, that's definitely much more sort of community and interaction based.
Yeah. I think if you're able to share any data, especially if you're able to share data on, I know the community would be interested and I would be interested. We're hearing a lot about how MPD's numbers have gone down, but I would like to know from 3rd district, what did that look like back in maybe 2019 and what do the officer numbers look like now? To understand how those changes have maybe affected our communities. If you're able to share that, that would be helpful. And I'm happy to email you a follow-up because one of my questions too was how many folks did you engage during the fall crime initiative? Because we have seen over the last month since the fall crime initiative kind of wrapped up, almost an increase in violence in Columbia Heights.
Yeah, how many residents engaged, I don't think we didn't really capture that metric, like, because we have contacts, which are just conversations that officers have, and then like actual stops where we are legally stopping somebody, and for traffic stops or a stop, could be any number of things. So stops are captured, but contacts are not necessarily captured. And like those interactions, like officers out there just talking to people, they don't really record that.
I mean, just a piece of feedback, I think it could be helpful to record that so then we can see kind of an overall engagement level. But I understand you can't retroactively record that now, but just moving forward, I think we would love to hear that. And I think the community would too. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I know Mr. Nelson has a question. So I want to wrap this up. But last thing, and maybe I need to email you because it's in a different sector, but do you have any updates on a shooting that took place on December 28th around 6 p.m. on 12th Street? And then the victim was found on 13th?
I do not.
Okay.
He was on leave for that, so I would have to do some digging.
Okay, I'll send you an email because I know that there are some neighbors who want to know kind of an update on that.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll take a quick question from Patrick and then we'll close out this segment.
Lieutenant, I just wanted to see a kind of a follow-up to the question that was asked about the woman that was shot with the kids in the car. I actually live on that. So my question to you is when I was out that day and I came in from my excursion, there was a bus stopped at Georgia and Euclid with one or two police cars behind it with their lights on. And then I got a text from the chair saying, hey, there's something going on right around you. And then within maybe, I want to say a half an hour or 15 minutes is when the shooting occurred, which is literally across the street from that. And I'm curious as to whether or not the police have investigated, or is there a possibility that the man who shot the girl in the car was on the bus? Because he apparently came from somewhere else. I'm just curious.
I don't have that information. That'd be part of their homicide investigation. And I don't know if it was disclosed in the court records or not. They definitely looked into all avenues of it. And a lot of times if you see police cars stopping or behind a metro bus, it's them holding the bus to get video footage from it, because they have to actually go out to the bus and download the footage right there. It's not something they can remote in and do. It's a very sort of antiquated old hard drive system that they have to pull the digital part out of the bus. It's a pain, but that's most likely what you saw.
Thank you. Amanda, Commissioner Farnan.
Thank you so much, Chair Turner. Just a final announcement on the Public Safety Community Engagement Committee that we will have our first meeting of the year on February 10th, as it says in the agenda. There is a link there for folks to RSVP for this meeting. We're hosting it in person on the rooftop of the Atlantic Plumbing Building. We have a few specific apartment buildings around the area who are interested. So this meeting is open to anybody, not closed off to any apartment building. We have a system in place so you can tell the front desk and then come right up to the meeting. We also will have a Zoom option. So if you're not comfortable coming to an indoor space, that is totally fine. Just RSVP at the same link and you'll have the Zoom link there for you to join. So Thursday, February 10th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. ZPD, Mr. Nelson.
Okay, folks, tonight we have one item that you need to vote on. This is a property located at 28.9 13th Street Northwest. It's in a RF1 zone. It's actually a current change of address. The original property was listed and numbered as 1238 Harvard Street. So it's readdressed. This is in SMD 1B09. No, 1B in James Turner's SMD. I have the wrong number down here. The BZA case that's coming up on April 6th. So the application that the applicant is requesting is for special exceptions from building height requirements and the matter of right uses to convert and construct a third-story addition and conversion of this into a 3-unit apartment at that location. So the committee has reviewed this and is recommending that the ANC support the request for the special exceptions from the building height and the matter of right uses. And it looks like we have lost James Turner. So give him a second to see if he comes back in. There he is.
He is back.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I had
Mr.
to switch
Turner,
machines. I don't know what happened.
you were off. This project is in your SMD. It's
So then let me hang up again.
special requests for special exceptions for building height and matter right uses to convert it into a 3-unit dwelling.
Yes, this is a
13th
this is a border issue with ANC 1A. Dottie Love Wade, Commissioner. There's been no indication that they wish to support or oppose or just defer to our jurisdiction on this one. So I would
Actually,
move.
James, let me just let you know, I did get an email from Marty Sullivan, who contacted the chair of the ZPD in 1A, and he has deferred to us in this case.
Great, thank you. So I move the committee recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there discussion? Discussion. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions, 1. Motion passes.
Okay, so the only thing that I have left to say is that our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday this month, Tuesday, the 22nd of February, since Monday is a holiday. You can register on the website. It is a Zoom meeting.
Thank you. Economic Development, Commissioner Handrahan.
Thank you, Chair Turner. Hi, everyone. Larry Handrahan. We normally provide some time for Main Street or Clean Street reps to present, but our 6:30 presentation was from District Bridges to talk about the equity work around Lower Georgia Ave. So if anyone else is on the line to provide a different update, an additional update, I should say, please raise your hand, let me know. But I don't think we'll be hearing from any additional groups. Do appreciate the time for that conversation. Wanted to provide a recap of our January meeting. The group got together for the first time this calendar year, had a productive conversation. Just updates that I think would be valuable for the community. DemPed is still considering the roof center plans, so we don't have any final decision yet. That's really obviously a complicated decision that they have in front of them. We are looking ahead to 815 Florida Ave Northwest, which is the current headquarters of the Housing Finance Agency. The committee discussed at length about the interest of having daytime jobs, non-retail commercial at that site. And we are inviting HFA leadership to join us at our meeting later this month so that they can talk about the latest thinking. That meeting is 2 weeks from tonight at 6:30 on February 17th. We also talked about some other broader economic development topics, which the committee could advise this group as the ANC, including, I think, a general interest in 18-hour traffic along the corridor. So getting a bucket of uses during the day and at night. If someone's interested in working on this, we're still seeking new members. So especially members from SMBs we don't have representation, 1B05, 1B06, 1B07, 1B08, and 1B09. If you're interested, please shoot me an email. I will drop my email in the chat. And anyone is welcome. You don't have to be an interested member. If you would like to join us at our next meeting on Thursday, February 17th at 6:30. That's all I had for tonight. I welcome any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. Transportation, Commissioner York.
Hi there. So for the Transportation Committee, nothing to vote on from our last meeting. The last meeting was pretty much a just kind of like picking the brains of the committee members to see what topics we would like to address in the next year. I really want to shift the transportation committee to be less reactive and more proactive, since we don't really review as much things that come into us, and we can take a little bit firmer of a stance on projects that we want to recommend to the council and the city. Our next meeting is going to be next week, Wednesday, February 9th, says February 7th on the agenda, at 7 p.m. We're going to be reviewing a couple resolutions related to U Street, potential exploration of a bike lane on Vermont based off of the presentation that we were given last week by some DDOT employees, and recommendations for proposed bill that's going to be going forward at the transportation committee meeting for the council in March. So if you are interested in any of those things, please come to our next meeting. And also our new Ward 1 DDOT liaison, Mignon Bui, has the floor now. Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners. It's a pleasure to see all your faces. I don't have any too many updates today. I just wanted to introduce myself. I believe the last time I saw all of you was my second day at DDOT. So I just wanted to just show my face again. I did want to announce that DDOT, we're currently working on a new TSI one-pager to basically explain how to submit your any requests that you might have. And also we are working on a new ANC resolution process. So fingers crossed, because we have to get that looked over by the deputy mayor. So we're just waiting for that finalized processes. So hopefully I can get that by next week, and by the new transportation, the next transportation meeting, I'm hoping I'd be able to present that. Fingers crossed, yeah. But that's basically it. I just wanted to pop in and say hello. And if you guys had any questions, of course, feel free to ask me now. And as I'm still learning, thank you for your patience. And I can just always, if there's anything you want me to follow up on, I'd be glad to discuss that with you today and then follow up with you.
Commissioner
Thank you
Harris.
so much, Mignon. I think Commissioner Harris has a question.
Just a quick note. I just wanted to say, thank you so much for your quick response today on a sinkhole that was brought to my attention. I really, really appreciate that. And I will be back in touch. And I wanted to see if you could go ahead and drop your email into the chat, or I can do it as well too, just so everyone has your contact info.
Of course. And it was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. And then I just had one quick, you answered my question. Basically just thank you for coming today to speak. And we appreciate this level of transparency from DDOT. We don't always get it. So it's nice to just have some updates on stuff that y'all are working on that can support the work that ANC commissioners are doing. So thank you very much, Mignon. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All right, and that's it for the transportation update.
Thank you. ABR, Commissioner Baina.
Okay, the ABR committee met in January. We had a couple items before us, but we tabled some of them to the next month because of the establishments weren't able to attend. But we did take a vote that needs full ANC committee approval, or full ANC commission approval. So that is the substantial change application of the rum spot at 2827 Sherman Avenue Northwest. That is in Chair Turner's district, 1B09. The ABR recommendation was that the full ANC protest on the grounds of peace, order, and quiet and all applicable grounds. Just to clarify, this is, again, a substantial change application. The establishment just wants to add entertainment, both indoor and outdoor, so that they can have a DJ. And so we didn't get to hear from them at our last month's meeting. So, but we had to take a vote just based on the timing of the placarding, so we can keep our standing. There was concern by some committee members about the outdoor entertainment, because there is residential right around there. So we will hopefully hear from them on February 16th this month, but we do need to approve this, motion so that we can keep our standing and come to some sort of settlement agreement with them, particularly on these hours. So, Commissioner Turner, do you have anything that you wanted to mention on this one?
The concern is that it is on Sherman Avenue. It's in a part of Sherman Avenue that has some of the older homes that were built at a period where there wasn't a lot of activity and businesses and loud noise out on the streets. And as we've experienced, even with new construction, when there is live entertainment to late hours during the week and on the weekend, it can be very disruptive to people being able to enjoy their homes. And particularly, we have a number of seniors who may go to bed early, and this would be disruptive to them on the corridor. I have discussed it with a number of folks, and everyone is supportive of the establishment. The concern is when the entertainment will end. Instead of midnight and 2 a.m., maybe 10 o'clock outside and midnight inside on the weekends. I have emailed and done an exchange with the applicant and with the owner of the building. And there is general interest in working through this or either withdrawing the application until they could find a better way to deal with noise abatement. So I would move the recommendation of the ABR committee on protest.
And I did just want to note that their outdoor hour of entertainment was 11 that they were asking for. So it wasn't the full time, but.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I wanted to ask, did the establishment propose anything related to kind of noise abatement in their outdoor area that they're seeking entertainment?
No, it's a very small outdoor area, actually.
Yeah, when I spoke with the applicant, they really just wanted to be able to have the ability to, play some, it's a kind of Jamaican themed, so they wanted to be able to play or have a DJ play some reggae music. They didn't have any like firm plans yet, but I did advise them if they were going to go forward that they should be engaging with the neighbors. And it sounds like they're doing that with Chair Turner. So, yeah.
Other discussion? Mr. Nelson.
Can I just make one quick point for the commission that there is no other bar in 1B that I'm aware of that has any outdoor enforcement for entertainment in the front of the building. We have one bar that is in contested now and still hasn't been resolved. So we have to be very careful that we don't set a precedent that somebody else can come by and say, well, they have it, we should get it. This is the main reason our main concern that I brought up when we discussed it at the committee level. I'm not against this restaurant. It's literally 2 blocks from my house. I'm curious to see it open and would love to go there, but I just don't think having entertainment out on the sidewalk is a good idea.
Definitely, hence why we.
All those in favor of the motion? Against? Abstentions? 1 abstention.
Okay. The next item, which was is the approval of a settlement agreement for Exum Restaurant. This is in Commissioner Orlowski's district. So we had protested it at the last meeting and in January, and then it was shortly signed thereafter by Commissioner Orlowski and the applicants. So the motion is to approve the settlement agreement for Eggsome Restaurant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention.
I'm definitely looking forward to this one. This is a family-owned Ethiopian restaurant coming to 9th Street. So it is a really nice family that is opening that up on 9th. Other than that, we don't have anything else that requires a full ANC vote. Similar to the Economic Development Committee, we are looking for new members, particularly in actually those same districts, 1B, 06, 07, 08, 09. We are a pretty U Street and Shaw area heavy committee. So if any folks that live up the hill like me want to join the ABR committee, we could use you. Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 16th at 7 p.m. We have a few on the agenda already. The Rum Spot is going to come back and talk more. We have another yet to be named establishment that is at 2210 14th Street in Commissioner Thomas's district, who is going to be attending. And then I just got a placard today for a current establishment on 9th Street that wants a substantial change to expand to another floor. So the February meeting will be a full one. We will see you on the 16th at 7. And it's via Zoom. You can register on anc1b.org.
I would put a moment to personally congratulate Commissioner Dana in his successful negotiation of a conflict with a hearing that happened at Abra. I am so happy that we won this case. This was a hard fight, and we got them to concede to what the community wanted. So kudos to you.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for being my expert witness at the proceedings. So appreciate it.
So now you've got the first one under your belt. You're ready to do more.
No more. Hopefully no more. No more Abra hearings.
I mean, Larry, Commissioner Handerhan started it with his at the beginning, and we've gotten some steadily more controversial ones.
Trial by fire.
Administratively, we have 2 openings in the ANC, 1B10 and 1B05. They continue to be advertised in the DC Register without candidates. Quick update on redistricting. The council member has announced a redistricting task force of a large number of members, with council members at large also naming representatives. There have been 4 meetings thus far and 1 town hall. The purpose is to look at the new population numbers, the census numbers, group into SMDs of about 1,900 to 2,100 people, and then look at new ANCs. Thus far, there's been mostly the discussions and alignments around what's a neighborhood, what's a community, what's an ANC, what does an SMD do, what is the history of the area, how many new commissioners, what is the right number of commissioners for an ANC, and the start of discussion of equity criteria to look at when starting to look at the maps. We're taking a 2-track approach. I'm leading the team that is doing the mathematical numbers of just mathematically counting to 2,100 and saying, this is a group, starting and looking across the ward. Then using historic neighborhoods or commonly accepted neighborhoods and seeing how that would look with SMDs. We've been asked to look at 2 additional things. One, what is workload and projected workload based on ABRA licenses, transportation requests, the transactional histories of ANCs, and what does the comp plan show or predict for us moving forward. And the 4th would be around 311 requests, types of requests of what type of services. City services need more attention in areas. And that is also a good one as we start to do an overlay. And the second team will be coming, and it's a much more difficult job, in my opinion, of coming up with the criteria to then start looking at the maps that we come up with based on just numbers and math, basically. They're going to be looking at what are equity issues, what are racial issues, what are historic neighborhood issues, when do neighborhoods and communities intersect, to look at representation in those areas. There's not a lot we can do with. We're not dealing with 750,000 people like a congressional district. We're dealing with 2,000, which in many cases is just 2 or 3 blocks in the new census. So there's not a lot of adjustment that could be done in SMDs, but we can look at it more from an ANC standpoint. So we'll be looking at applying that criteria. Over the next 2 weeks, we're working internally to do those 2 things. Then we'll be having another town hall. You can post comments and any documents that you want to share with the task force in its work. We have a hard deadline of having to report by April 1st. So our initial proposal needs to be by mid to the end of February, and then spend March in applying criteria and getting increased community conversation. Commissioner Boehner.
Yeah, just really quick, and I can send it, but when you're on this, I want specifically if you could look at making 1B08, 1B03, and 1B06 more contiguous, mine, Judy, and Bose, because those are the ones that are all kind of were carved up in the middle, and depending upon, like, there's one like block of Euclid where no one knows if they're in mine or Judy's or Bose, and because it's all in one. So those ones are the most like. I don't know, if you could just look at that, that'd be great.
Well, I can answer that. I will not. And the reason being is that we're not considering existing SMDs. We're drawing fresh.
Great.
If we do too much in looking to the past, it will influence what could be a better way of grouping. So we're trying not to do ANCs that pull a little here, put a little there, but more of doing the blank sheets, okay. Which makes it a little more difficult given that the tool that we were provided doesn't work for the task at hand.
It gives you all those previous ones. They're all aligned.
It gives us a lot of data that's not always that useful.
Agreed.
But interesting. Commissioner Thomas.
Commissioner Thomas, you're muted. I don't know if we can unmute you or if you can unmute.
I think I got it. You all, please forgive me. My mind just so cluttered with so much stuff. I'm trying. Did I just miss the 1301 Florida Avenue? Was there a vote?
Did we talk about that last meeting, or did it come up again?
Okay, so
I think it was.
Deborah, that was last
January.
month.
Okay,
And,
just wanted
and
to make
that,
sure.
that woman that sent the email, I think you got CC'd on, I responded to her the same day
And
so she's got something
and
that explained it. She was happy that that happened. And then you
Oh, yeah,
dipped again, so she's got it twice. Yeah.
okay.
yeah, and I saw your response come through, Commissioner Thomas. So I believe she also received it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You got the desired outcome.
Huh?
You got exactly what you wanted on that one.
And we
Um,
appreciate your advocacy, Commissioner Thomas. Makes
Thank
us
you.
all better. I just want to say one last comment on redistricting / administrative. Thanks to Chair Turner for all the work he does. And, of course, for this ANC, but for the redistricting committee, I really appreciate those updates. And I think everyone on 1B does as well, because perhaps we are going to be the most changed. So I'm always interested in that. So thank you.
we are looking for ways to make sure that we do better outreach and engagement. So if you can help spread the word, that would be terrific as well.
We can. I see that Commissioner Harris put a email in the chat too, so I'll be sure to copy that.
But I think. Yes, Commissioner Farnan, I did pass along your name as to pull into that group that's looking at better engagement.
Great, love it. I'm ready. Thank you so much.
Let's now go to announcements. Is LaToya on? I'm not sure if she was able to join us.
Did not see her in the attendees. I've been keeping an eye out.
Okay, thank you. I did exchange emails with her, and obviously there's a lot going on with the U.S. Attorney and with the Department of Justice right now, and they were unable to join us tonight. Office of the Mayor, Anthony Moore.
Anthony was not able to join unless I see him. No, I don't see him. But he said he would provide written updates. So if there's anything of note, or if anyone was expecting something from him, you can reach out to me, 1B11. And then also on the Office of the U.S. Attorney, we should have them coming to our March meeting. So please stay tuned for some questions there for any attendees who have questions for them.
Office of the Council Member.
It doesn't look like Oscar is on either.
Can I just jump in and thank the Councilmember's office for doing a walkthrough of the park at LaDroit on Monday. This is one of the most tremendous community assets in 1B01, and I would posit in all of 1B. There's been huge usage upticks in the pandemic, but maintenance has not kept up. And so we did a walkthrough with city reps and the Councilmember's office. Mr. Moore was also there to talk about a bit of a punch list. And I would just highly recommend other folks who have DPR properties in their SMDs to do the same thing, because it was a great opportunity to understand whose responsibility is where, and excited to hopefully correct some of the challenges we've seen.
Commissioners, any announcements?
Yes, I have two. So one, Department of Aging and Community Living, they have their Cupid's Kid Drive tomorrow, or that's when the cards, Valentine's Day cards, are due. So if you all can whip up some Valentine's Day cards for our seniors, definitely drop them off at either Mount Pleasant Library, which is the only library in Ward 1, or there's a Shaw Library is also fairly close to some folks as well too. I think they just need to be dropped off before the libraries close tomorrow. And then there's another opportunity to help our seniors in DC to distribute COVID rapid test kits. I will drop links to both in the chat. But you can volunteer on Serve DC, and those opportunities, I believe, are on Tuesdays and Thursdays to distribute these tests to our seniors. So I will put both links in the chat. I am going to be doing both. So I hope our other community members and commissioners can do the same.
Thank you. Are there any community announcements?
If you're in the attendees and wanted to share, please raise your little hand or put in the chat or the Q&A. I did not receive any notes, as I sometimes do, so we should be okay.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. It's a very productive meeting. We're adjourned until next month. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.